I'll tell you this right now. If you've never found your snowblower chained to a stake in front of the HOA office with a neon violation tag flapping in the wind, you have not truly tasted suburban betrayal. I mean, really, who the hell does that? The only thing missing was a walk of shame and a bell, like in Game of Thrones. Yeah, that was the morning I realized, with total clarity, just how sideways things could go in a place like Meadowbrook Estates. 6 years I'd lived there, tucked on the edge of Neepville, Illinois, 45 minutes from Chicago. If you've got the wind at your back and traffic's light, which, let's face it, is about as likely as the Cubs winning 2 years in a row. Our little subdivision was classic American suburbia. Every house a vinyl copy-paste, lawns cut to a regulation height, even in February mailboxes that had to be a particular shade of morning mist, beige, as if anyone could tell the difference between that and frosted oatmeal. I bought my house because it was affordable, close to work maintenance supervisor at a local plant. And sure, I knew there was an HOA. At first it seemed like just another part of the package. Like, okay, I'll keep my grass neat, take down my Christmas lights by January 3rd, whatever. No big deal. That winter morning, though, whew. The kind of cold that bites through your boots, stings your ears, makes your car groan when you try to start it. We'd had 14 inches of snow overnight, and I was up at 4:30, half awake, grumbling. Not because I love snow removal, don't get me wrong, but because for the last 3 years I'd taken on a little responsibility clearing the driveway at Fire Station 47, just outside our subdivision. 2 engines, a ladder truck, an ambulance serving us, and 3 other neighborhoods. If they couldn't get out, people suffered. Simple as that. How did I end up with that gig? Pure accident. 3 winters back, I was outside battling my own driveway when I looked over and saw 3 firefighters out there, shovels in hand, their ancient plow dead. They looked like they'd rather be running into burning buildings than moving snow. I had a monster of a Toro snowblower, bought it used from a landscaper, and figured why not help? So I did. Captain Mike Reynolds thanked me, tried to pay me, but I waved it off. My old man was a volunteer firefighter. I knew the deal. Tight budgets, a lot of thankless work. We made a handshake deal. I clear the snow when it dumps. They keep an eye on my place when I'm out of town, and Mike sometimes helps with projects that need more than 2 hands. It worked. Everybody won. So I did it again and again, 40 times over 3 years. Always early, always before work, never asked for attention. But someone decided the snowblower was too loud. And so there it was, chained up in front of Helen Cartwright's HOA office. Bright orange violation, flapping like a warning to every other sucker in the neighborhood. The letter read, excessive noise during quiet hours, impounded pending review, and if I didn't show up to the hearing, fines and possible legal action. Signed, Helen Cartwright. Ah, Helen. The queen of beige and bylaws. She'd only been here a year and a half, but she hit the ground running. Moved into the biggest house on Oakmont, rocked the kind of athleisure outfits that probably cost more than my snowblower. She muscled her way into the HOA presidency by frankly wearing everyone down. Showed up at every meeting, overwhelmed the other folks with a tidal wave of energy and honestly a little bit of menace. Most of us just wanted to be left alone. So fine, Helen. You want to run the show? Be our guest. Only she didn't just run it, she ran it like she was the CEO of some Fortune 500. New rules, higher dues, violation notices for everything. Trash cans out early. $50, Christmas lights past New Year's, that'll be another fine. She patrolled the neighborhood in her white BMW, snapping photos, keeping notes, building cases like a suburban prosecutor. I dodged her radar for a while, kept my head down, played by the rules, but evidently waking up early to clear snow for first responders finally put me in her crosshairs. So I called Mike at the station. He sounded beat. You coming by this morning? We need the driveway clear before shift change at 7. I explained the situation. Snowblower chained up violation notice. No chance of getting it back today. Silence. How are we supposed to clear the driveway? He said, exasperated. Their plow was still dead, the crew exhausted ice building up under the snow. I don't know, Mike. I'm going to try to sort this out. I figured maybe I could reason with Helen. Her office was just her basement, converted with a sign in official business hours on the door. Lights on at 5:30 a.m. She was as early as me. So I trudged across the street, boots crunching the neighborhood still except for the occasional shovel scraping. Streetlights made everything orange and harsh. She opened the door, already dressed for battle yoga pants, sweater, perfectly composed. "Mr. Thornton, I assume you saw the violation notice." I told her I need my snowblower. I have responsibilities. She just stared. "So do I. I enforce community rules. You broke them." I tried to explain I was clearing the fire station's driveway so emergency vehicles could get out. "That's very civic-minded of you," she said, flat as drywall, "but it doesn't give you the right to violate rules. There are electric snowblowers. Or you could wait until 6. I said electric ones can't handle snow like this, and if I wait until 6 people's lives are at risk." She was unmoved. "Rules exist for a reason. If we let one person break them, everyone will." My frustration bubbled up, but I kept my voice steady. "Who complained?" "That's confidential." "Was it you?" She pursed her lips. "The source is irrelevant. It was you, wasn't it? You're the only one awake at 5 a.m. besides me." She cut me off. "Your hearing is on the 20th. Your equipment is impounded until then. Try to take it. I'll call the cops." It was like arguing with a brick wall that knew all the bylaws by heart. I took pictures, my snowblower, the violation notice, just in case this went legal. I called Mike, filled him in. He was pissed. But what could we do? Firefighters with shovels, hours lost, response times down. And I was left feeling angry and powerless. But anger is good fuel. By lunch, I was ready to fight back. Dug out the bylaws thick binder I hadn't looked at in years. Helen was technically right. Gas-powered equipment prohibited before 6. But here's the kicker. There were exceptions for emergencies and essential services. More importantly, nowhere did it say the HOA could seize property without a hearing. Fines, yes. Liens on houses, sure. Take your stuff, no. Helen had jumped the gun, counting on nobody reading the fine print. After work, I went to the fire station. Mike listened as I laid it out. "So she's basically holding your property hostage." "Yep. I just need to prove snow removal for you guys is essential. I'll get you a letter from the chief," Mike said, "and pull response time data. That'd help a lot." The next morning, the letter was ready, official, formal, ironclad. It said my help was critical for public safety, requested a waiver for any noise ordinances. I walked that letter right to Helen's door this time at a reasonable hour. She read it stone-faced. "This doesn't change anything," she said. "Actually, it does." I said, laying out her overreach section, this subsection that, and oh, by the way, any 5 residents can call an emergency meeting. I had 7 names whether I did or not. She blinked, first crack in her armor. "Fine," she snapped. "You can have your equipment back, but this isn't over." "That's your right," I said. "See you at the hearing." 5 minutes later, she handed me the key and stormed off. I loaded my snowblower with a little victory swagger, but the battle lines were drawn. Turns out I wasn't the only one sick of Helen's tactics. In 6 months, she'd written over 200 violations across 80 houses, fines for trash cans, lawn ornaments, a teenager's mistake costing a family $3,000. Most folks just paid up trying to keep the peace. But now there was an undercurrent of resentment. People were ready to push back. By the end of the week, we'd called an emergency HOA meeting. The board, Helen, and 4 others met in the community center, folding chairs packed, the air buzzing with anticipation. I presented everything, the fire chief's letter, violation spreadsheet, stories from neighbors. Helen tried to keep order, but the tide was turning. The other board members, regular folks, not tyrants, started to question her. The secretary even pulled out meeting minutes proving Helen had been issuing fines without approval. Rebecca Ford, a nurse with a commanding voice, stood up. "I move. We review all violations and suspend enforcement." The vote was 4-1. Helen, defeated, stormed out to a chorus of relieved residents. The next morning, every tire on my truck was slashed. No evidence, but come on, I wasn't backing down. We formed a committee, dug through stacks of violations, found Helen had been fining for things that weren't even in the bylaws, photoshopped fence colors, invented infractions. It was a pattern. At the next meeting, I presented the findings. Helen was called out again, and eventually, after one last explosion, she resigned, blaming me for her downfall, swearing it wasn't over. It wasn't. A week later, a lawsuit arrived, Helen suing me for defamation and intentional infliction of emotional distress. It was paper-thin intimidation. My lawyer Daniel handled it, but still, the stress was real. Meanwhile, Helen tried to pull strings with the city, filing a complaint against the fire station. When I started getting visits from patrol cars at night, and Helen was caught watching my house from her BMW at 2 a.m., I knew it was getting ugly. Then my house was broken into furniture, trashed obscenities spray painted on the walls. Nothing stolen, just a message. Cops found Helen's brother Connor, a guy with a record cell phone, pings, placing him at the scene. He cracked under questioning, admitted Helen had asked him to scare me. She was arrested as an accessory. The story hit the local news, and suddenly Meadowbrook Estates was that neighborhood with the crazy HOA lady. Property values dipped, but the community, it came together. Real reforms, new leadership oversight. Neighbors who'd barely nodded before now shared coffee and stories. In court, Helen was found guilty. Text messages nailed her. Her own brother testified. 18 months in prison, 9 before parole. Restitution for the damage. When the verdict was read, she just sat there empty. She'd built her castle on power and resentment, and when it crumbled, she had nowhere to stand. Spring came, and the snowblower went back to doing its quiet work. Nobody complained anymore. I kept clearing the fire station, mowing their lawn in summer. The new HOA board, led by Rebecca, ran things with common sense. People decorated, laughed, forgot to bring in trash cans now and then. Life returned to normal, a little wiser, a little more connected. One afternoon, Helen's older sister showed up at my door. Patricia, gentle voice, softer eyes. She apologized, shared a little of Helen's story, how she'd been kind once before her divorce, before the obsession with control. She lost herself somewhere along the way, Patricia said. Maybe so. But choices matter. People got hurt. In the evenings, I'd walk the neighborhood kids playing barbecues, laughter. I'd see the sign for the next community barbecue and smile, thinking this right here is what I fought for. Not to win against someone, but to win for something, a place where people could live and breathe without fear or petty tyranny. I called Daniel, thanked him again. Took guts, he said. Most people just keep their heads down. I'm stubborn, I admitted. The good kind, he laughed. Looking back, the snowblower incident was just the spark. The real story was about a community remembering what it meant to have each other's backs. In the end, justice landed where it should have. Helen paid her price. The neighborhood healed. And I learned sometimes you've got to stand up not just for yourself, but for everyone around you. Even if it means late nights, ugly fights, or fixing 4 slashed tires on a Monday morning. And here's the thing, there's a line somewhere between order and oppression, between helping people and controlling them. Who gets to draw that line? How do we know when enough is enough? I'm curious. Have you ever had to stand up to someone with a little too much power? Seen rules twisted for the wrong reasons? Where do you draw the line between keeping peace and keeping control? Let me know down in the comments. Share your story, your take on justice, on power, on what it means to be a good neighbor. Because in the end, that's what makes a community, isn't it? Not rules, not fines, but the courage to stand up and the grace to let go.
Cảm ơn các bạn đã xem video.